Okay, now this is another type of classification of unit cell, and it based on the position of particles. I mean, where the particles are present in your unit cell, based on that again you can classify the unit cell mainly into two types. One is called primitive unit cell or simple unit cell, and one is called non-primitive unit cell. Before doing this, I want to tell you something. Suppose this is one of the unit cell. This is one of the unit cell. In this unit cell, it's like to be a cube. A cube contains how many corners? A cube always have 8 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This thing you have to know. A cube always have 8 corners. And these are called from one corner to another corner. This line is called edge. In a cube, you will get 8 corners and you will get 12 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, like this you will get 12 edges. And the center of the cube, this is called body center. I mean, inside the cube you will get the center, that center is called body center. Every cube contains one body center. I mean the center of the cube, that center is called body center. And every cube contains some, this is one face, this is another face, this is another face, this one side face, back side face, front side face. Every cube contains 6 faces. Do you know what a face? Face means this is one of the face, this is another face, downward face, front face, side face, back side face. Like this you will get 6 faces in a cube. And so a unit cell contains 8 corners, 12 edges, 6 faces, 1 body center. And suppose this is one corner, this is one corner. If you draw a line from one corner to another corner through the face, that is called face diagonal, because you have drawn the line through face. That's why it is called face diagonal. Similarly, from this corner to this corner you can draw one diagonal which is said to be face diagonal, and this is said to be the face center. I mean the center of the face. So how many faces? One cube? One cube contains 6 faces. In a face, how many diagonal you can draw? You can draw 2 face diagonal. So total how many face diagonal you can draw? Since there are 6 faces, you can draw 12 face diagonal in a cube. Similarly, these are called face diagonal, and the center is called face center, and the center of the cube is called body center. Now see, if you see this cube, this point, I mean this corner is in the back side. From your side, this is in back side, and this corner should be in front side. If you draw a line from that back side corner to this front side corner, this is also a diagonal, and this diagonal comes through the center of the cube. I mean from the back side face to the front side face corner, if you draw a line, then the line comes through the center of the cube, and that is called the body diagonal. Can you tell me how many body diagonal you can draw inside the cube? Like this, from this corner to this corner you will get one body diagonal. From this corner to this corner you will get another body diagonal. How many body diagonal you can draw inside the cube? Inside the cube you can draw 4 body diagonal from one corner to another corner. Body diagonal means that diagonal which should come through the center of the cube, through the body. That diagonal is called body diagonal. So in a cube you can draw 4 body diagonals. Okay, now, so this is about body diagonal. This thing you have to know, then you can understand about the structure of the solid. So a unit cell, a cube, contain 8 corners, 6 faces and 12 edges. When a line is drawn from one corner to another corner through the face, then that diagonal is called face diagonal. In a face you can draw 2 diagonals, so there are 6 faces, that's why you can draw 12 face diagonal. and when you draw a line from one corner to another corner through the body, then that diagonal is called body diagonal, and inside the cube you can draw 4 body diagonals, and the center of the cube is called what? That is called body center. So first time you should know about this. After that you can study about the structure. Now, as I have told you in last class, in solid the particles are closely attached with one another and they are arranged 3-dimensionally. So just I have shown 4 particles, and particles are always spherical like marble. So you have to consider this as marble. So this is one layer, and when you combine these particles in one layer, then you will get what? You will get a square. Now if you place another 4 marble above this layer, then the square will be converted to a cube. I mean this type of structure you will get, and that is called a unit cell. Like this you will get number of particles in your lattice, I mean number of cubes you will get. That number of cubes when you arrange, then that is called a lattice, and one of the cube is said to be the unit cell. And in this case you can see this is present at the corner, these are corner of the cube, and when you place another layer above this, then another 4 corner will contain another 4 particles. That means the particle will be present like this. This is one particle in corner, this is another particle in a corner, this is another particle in a corner, and this is another particle in this corner. I mean these are 4 particles in a layer. This is one particle in a corner, this is another particle in a corner, this is another particle in a corner, and this is another particle in a corner. Particles should be equal in their sizes. Have you got it? 4 particles in the lower layer and 4 particles in the upper layer. So here you have seen all the particles are present at the corners of the cube. If the particles are present only at the corners, not in other position, the particles may be present in other position, but if the particles are present only at the corners of the cube, then that type of unit cell is called simple unit cell or primitive unit cell. But there are some unit cell in which the particles are present not only at the corners but also some in other spatial positions. Then that type of unit cells are called non-primitive unit cell. So unit cell you can classify into 2 types based on position of the particle. One is called primitive unit cell and one is called non-primitive unit cell. So classification of unit cell based on position of particle, one is called primitive unit cell, primitive or simple unit cell, and one is called non-primitive unit cell, non-primitive unit cell. When the unit cell is said to be primitive or simple, when the particles are present only on the corners of the unit cell, then it is called primitive or simple unit cell. And when it is called non-primitive, when the particles are present not only at the corners but also in some other spatial position, then it is called non-primitive unit cell. Now, what are classification of non-primitive unit cell? One of the non-primitive unit cell is called face-centered unit cell. Face-centered unit cell. When the unit cell is said to be face-centered, suppose this is one of the unit cell, this is one of the unit cell, the particles are present at the corners. As you know, cube contain 8 corners, all the corners contain one particle, and particles are present at the center of the faces also. This is one face, this is another face, this is another side face, this is downward face, your front side face this one centered, and the back side face center this one. So when the particles are present not only at the corners but also at the center of each faces, I mean there are 6 faces now, every face contain one particle at the center, then it is called face-centered unit cell. I mean this is one example of non-primitive unit cell. So as I have told you, non-primitive unit cell means the unit cell in which the particles are present not only at the corners but also in some other spatial position, then it is called non-primitive unit cell. And one example is called face-centered unit cell. in which the particles are present at the corners and at the center of each faces. One of the non-primitive unit cell is called body-centered unit cell. Body-centered unit cell. When it is called body-centered unit cell, when the particles are present at the corners and one particle is present at the center of the cube, I mean center of the body, which is called body-centered, then it is called a body-centered unit cell. I mean when the particles are present not only at the corners but also particle present at the center of the cube, then it is called body-centered unit cell. And another non-primitive unit cell which is called end-centered unit cell. End-centered unit cell. When it is called end-centered unit cell, when the particles are present at the corners and two alternate face contain two particles. If you consider this face, then the opposite face you have to consider, I mean upper one and the downward one, then it is said to be end-centered. I mean when the particles are present at the corners and two alternate face contain two particles, then it is said to be the end-centered unit cell. These three are the example of non-primitive unit cell. So classification of unit cell based on position of particle, you can classify the unit cell mainly into two types, primitive and non-primitive. Primitive, when it is said to be primitive, when the particles are present only at the corners. And non-primitive unit cell means when the particles are present not only in the corners but also in some other special position, then it is called non-primitive unit cell. There are three types of non-primitive: face-centered, body-centered, end-centered. When it is called face-centered, when the particles are present at the corners and at the center of each faces. When it is called body-centered, when the particles are present at the corners and at the center of the cube. And when it is called end-centered, when the particles are present at the corners and two alternate face contain two particles, then it is called end-centered unit cell. Thank you.